Welcome to the Changing the Perception of Sales podcast. On today's episode, we're joined by David Wilkins. Sales shouldn't be this dirty word, and together with the help of you and our guests, who are founders and sales leaders, we're looking to change the perception of sales and make it a career of choice.
Cold calling's back. It's never been a way for the best companies in the world. Managing upwards, it's cheat code, absolute cheat code. There's been a narrative going on the internet about how the SDR role is dead. Like 13,000 followers globally. We have about 3,000 SDR leaders.
Who SDRs should report into, sales or marketing?
My opinion is that they should report into. There's not many jobs that you can get coming out of university where you're potentially earning more than what your parents are earning. Sales is, again, it's got such a dirty word associated to it, especially in England. If I'd known about this when I was younger, I'd have gone, okay, this is maybe something I would have done.
Welcome to the Changing the Perception of Sales podcast. And today I'm delighted to say I'm joined by David Wilkins on this lovely sunny Wednesday evening in London. David, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks ever so much. Really lovely to be here.
So to kick things off, as we always like to do then on the podcast, if you wouldn't mind giving the listeners just a bit of an introduction into a little bit about you and what it is you currently do.
Yeah, a little bit about me. I live in the Netherlands. I'm originally from Leicester. Lived in the Netherlands now for about 18 years. Reason I went there was to do my Erasmus at the university and played rugby there as well, and ended up moving back after I graduated to play semi-pro rugby. Decided to have 2 years back in the UK where I wanted to become a teacher and become a real person, a real adult with a real job. But I worked at some amazing places. One of the schools was like a private school, but it was like Hogwarts, but it was instead of full of monks. And decided 2013 I actually loved being in the Netherlands, so moved back and started my getting into this crazy world of sales and ran global sales development teams, worked at some of the biggest software companies in the world. And now I run a community for sales development leaders all around the world to help support them, give them the best practices and guides and moral support that they need to be the best possible leaders they can be.
Brilliant. Thank you for the introduction. And we're going to get into the crazy world of sales and a bit more about your journey and the business and the communities that you run now. But what's kept you in the Netherlands?
I never was an adult in the UK. So I went to university up at now it's Leeds Met as it was. And reason was just because we wanted to play rugby league. So I was like, I'll go up into Leeds and play rugby league up there. And then when I went to university, I went and did my 6 months university at Leeds Beckett. I was just like, in Amsterdam. I was just loved the way of life, how everybody was so straightforward, how things worked. And when I came back to the UK for a couple of years, when I wanted to become a teacher, I was just kept on comparing my life that I started to develop in the Netherlands to what it was like in the UK, in Leicester and up in North Yorkshire. And I was just like, I'm not happy. So, and now I'm married to a beautiful, I'm the epitome of a salesperson. I've hit way above my league with a beautiful wife. I've just sold her the vision, the dream of what, and we've been married now for 7 years in May, have a house, have a dog. Just love it there.
Amazing. Love it. And I'm pleased that she bought into the vision as well.
It's the roadmap. What's potential. That's what you're going to sell.
Love it. So coming back on to, I guess, your introduction into sales, and you've spoken about being in the UK, moving to Amsterdam, being a teacher, but talk to us about how you actually got into sales. And the reason we like to touch on this is because changing the perception of sales, most people fall into the industry. So how did you get into it?
Yeah. So there's a little known thing about my career that I tried to get into sales in 2011 in the Netherlands, and I worked at a company that can only be described. This was 2011, and it was still in the 1980s in terms of it was Wolf of Wall Street, but worse. It was hardcore calling CEOs that have been called 30 times by the same company that day at different offices, and I lasted 5 days. And I was just like, I was, for a couple of years, I was quite scarred by what I thought sales was. I thought this was what it was all like. We didn't have a computer. There was old dusty desktops that were on one table. You had a paper script. You had an old phone that you had to dial the numbers for, and a list of numbers you had to call. So when I moved back to the Netherlands in 2013, I just was trying to figure out what to do with myself. I just wanted to move back to the Netherlands, so I ended up working at a mayonnaise factory for a little bit, just trying to make ends meet. And I will say this: the mayonnaise that help package is the best mayonnaise in the Netherlands. If you go there with your fries, you're going to be having that mayonnaise. It's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And then I just was like, okay, figuring out what to do. And then I had a recruiter reach out to me who said, I don't know why I'm thinking that you're good for this job, but because you've not done any of the things that they want, but you were former rugby coach, you were teaching, you sound very articulate on the phone. I think that you'd be really good for this job called a business development rep at this company called Palo Alto Networks. And I was like, I don't know what either of those two things are, but yeah, sure. And yeah, as with almost 99% of people, I fell into this job, and I needed to work. And so I didn't believe it was real where I was. Found out later that I joined Palo Alto Networks a year after their IPO, which then was the largest IPO ever. I didn't realize that at the time. And only realized it was a real job when they said to me, or started working, and they went, Dave, why have you not booked your ticket to go to sales training in San Francisco? And I said, I was thinking to myself, well, I thought you were lying just to get me to take the job. And they're like, no, you have to book it. You are leaving in a week. You need to do that today. I was like, okay, this actually might be a real job and a real career. And having the first time being able to go to America, to be able to go to San Francisco, be able to just experience that, that was my introduction to sales.
Wow. I mean this in a very complimentary way, but I'm pleased that you had a bad experience, because it really aligns well to why we're having conversations like this, because most people would have an experience like that, it would put them off for life. And if anything, the fact that you were still open enough and got the message from the recruiter is now such a success story that we'll come into.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the last day vividly, when I quit at that job on the 5th day. It was on a Wednesday, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna last until the end of the week. When I woke up, I got onto the train to work. I'm gonna last until the end of the day. I got off the train. I'm gonna last until lunchtime, and then at 10 a.m., an hour and a half after getting in, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then I was crying down the phone to my dad, which you never think that you're going to do at 24, 25, 24 when I was that age. Yeah.
Wow. I think anyone's listening to this that's maybe had an experience like that, hopefully this is, I guess, an example that not all sales roles are like that. And there is, as you've probably worked for, a lot better businesses out there.
Yeah, thank goodness.
What's his mayonnaise called?
It's a EMEA. See, I can do the R now. I've been practicing my Dutch. It's a EMEA. They do, and I can't describe it, but the mayonnaise in the Netherlands is different to what it is in the UK. I don't know why, but there's a different ingredient in it. It's really good. You got to try it out whenever you go to the Netherlands or Belgium.
Yeah, I'll try it. Well, what is the ingredient? Any idea?
I don't know. Just it's a different color as well. It's not white. It's yellow. It's like a beige yellow. So there's something different in it.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, you heard it here first. Everyone,
go
and check out the mayonnaise in Belgium and then the
exactly,
Netherlands. Yeah. So you come back to that message you got from that recruiter then, and this was back in 2013.
Yeah, 2013.
So as much as the sales industry has developed and progressed for the better massively, in my opinion, there's still businesses like the one in 2011 that you will have worked at. What was it that made you even entertain the conversation? Because a lot of people in your situation might have gone, "Oh, it's a sales role. No, it's not for me."
The two things: I needed a job, and they said I was going to get paid 27,000 euros, which for me then was just like, oh wow, this is insane. Uh, and and also the person who I was speaking to was actually a very genuine person and nice. And I'm really big on, um, which I've learned over the years, is about, if in doubt, there's no doubt. So if you have that feeling in your stomach, like, I'm not quite sure about this, then that's not going to go away. But if you have that feeling like, okay, I've actually feel like I'm building rapport with you, I'll say, okay, I'll see how this goes. That was the two big things.
Yeah. So it's probably linked to what we're going to come on to later on. It was a human to human connection that
Yeah.
you felt, and less so about what the message said. Like you felt
Yeah.
that they'd really built that rapport with you. So you started at Palo Alto Networks. Did your training in San Fran? It wasn't a joke. It was real.
It was real.
It was
Yeah.
real. And then you progressed in sales up into leading SDR teams at the likes of Snowflake and other businesses. So if you wouldn't mind just giving us a few of the key highlights of that journey from starting as a BDR with a bad experience before that up until kind of where you got to in your sales career.
Yeah, and it definitely wasn't just or one direct progression. I was at Palo Alto, and then I got headhunted to go and be a BDR at a company. It's not around anymore, but it's called Double Dutch. It was called Double Dutch, and it was quite ahead of its time. It was a mobile event app. So if you had a conference or a big event, you would have an app on your phone where you could see who the exhibitors were, all that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting technology, but the Wi-Fi was terrible in those days when you were at big event spaces. And did really well as a BDR there, but I fell into the trap that a lot of people do when they're starting in their career. I wanted to progress as fast as possible, and I pushed and pushed, and I became an AE, a commercial AE, and closed one big deal. It was great, and then 4 months later, I was on a PIP, a performance improvement plan, because I hadn't closed anything after that one big deal, and um, that was a bit of a gut punch. It was like, okay, this is I've failed. Um, but I moved to a different company to become an SDR somewhere else, a place called Infoblox, and that's where my career really started to accelerate. I started as an SDR, left after running, being a director, which is it's a board level approval at that company to get directorship, running European sales development. I'd set up the Asian SDR organization. I was running new logo go to market strategy for Europe for the whole business unit in Europe, and also I was tasked with building out the first commercial global inside sales org, all in 5.5 years. So that was a real highlight.
Interesting. And again, appreciate the honesty there where you went from being on the PIP to that is like stark contrast, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it was a bit of a wake up call in terms of, okay, this is actually real. Yeah, actions have consequences, and yeah, I wasn't performing, and a lot of it was because I wasn't ready for that role. And when I did, whilst I was also at Infoblox before I moved into SDR leadership, I was an AE, again, a commercial account executive, and I performed really well because I'd had good mentors and good people that helped me in um, in learning the craft of sales. So, and also learned from those mistakes that I'd made. So it really helped me become a better person for that.
Yeah. Good. And one of the things I want to touch on is actually what you said at the beginning of the answer is falling into the trap that most SDRs or salespeople do in wanting to get promoted too quickly. Why do you think that is a trap?
Because the sales development role is the best function in the business because it allows you to fail and learn from it. Whereas in most other roles within a company, those, if you fail, i.e., don't hit your target, don't achieve the expectations that are needed, there's normally performance conversations that I had off the back end. But it's really a strong learning ground for you to develop as an adult, to develop as in a sales organization, to understand how a business really runs. And some people are amazing and they're mature and they can learn those things fast, and they can progress and they can still be high performers. But most need time in seat to actually get to grips with all of that. And falling into that trap is that most people will just see that upper directory of next step, next step, next step. Great. But one of the big things that used to come up in conversations of SDRs who I managed, who made that jump to AE, would then say, I'm earning less as an AE than I did as an SDR. And my answer would be, yes, you are, because you haven't closed anything. And they're like, well, that's not fair. And it's like, it is, because you're now you're in a legally quota carrying role where your performance stakes how much money you'll make.
Interesting. It's a great way of describing the SDR role as well. I think I like that. Agree that you can fail, and obviously there is some consequence, of course, but nowhere near, or the stakes aren't quite as high as when you're in that AE position. From what you're hearing from the people that you speak to, then what is the average time? I know there's a lot of nuance here and it will vary depending on business to business, but now the people going into SDR roles are probably expecting things in general in life quicker than probably what they were 10 years ago, including things like promotions. Like, what is the average time, would you say?
So we did a survey, State of EMEA Sales Development Survey, in October last year, and we'd done one the year prior. We asked the same question both years about what's the average tenure of SDRs in your organization. And what was really interesting to see was the increase in SDRs that were in role for 18 to 24 months, and then 36 and 24 to 36 and 36 plus months. Before, it was a lot more towards the around 12 to 24 month period. And so I think people are, and I've heard anecdotally since then, that SDRs are saying now they just want to stay in that role. They don't want to progress because they want the security that they have. They don't want to keep pushing. I think that's more of a generational thing as well. So I think it's starting to get a little bit longer now in seat, because now organizations are also seeing that they need that consistent pipeline generation needed for the business versus people as just a part that they can plug in and then they can spit them out into different roles quicker. Okay, great, but are they really ready? I'm not sure.
Okay, interesting. And we'll probably come onto this in a bit more detail later when we talk about maybe what the future of the SDR role looks like, because that could be more aligned to people being able to stay or being happy to stay in the role for a little bit longer. To come back onto your journey then, David. So, great sales career, managing global, SDR teams, and then I guess you leave it all behind to set up your own business, which would be good to chat about now. But what was the motivation for maybe moving away from what you were doing?
Yeah, so I am, as I said, I've got a background in education and also in rugby coaching as well. It's always been always got a lot of joy of helping people see the aha moment and think something to click and then to them to develop. That's always been a big thing for me, and so that's why I moved into management. It was a natural transition when I was working, and then there was this is a true story. None of this is made up. I was walking my dog Chocky on New Year's Eve, because in the Netherlands, it's one of the only times of the year that fireworks aren't banned, and so it's insane. New Year's in the Netherlands, people just they save thousands of euros all throughout the year to just let it all go out off at midnight. And so I walked my dog a bit earlier in the day, and I was thinking, okay, well, I'm always talking about wanting to help people develop and get better, and no one's doing anything about it. So I was like, well, then I'll do something about it, and I'll take the lead on that. So it all started out, and Chucky will get all the credit for this.
Go on, Chucky.
With good lad. He's a good lad. It all started out with that dog walk on New Year's Eve in 2023. 2023. And so I spent that. My wife is training to be a nurse, so she was working. She was actually asleep because she had to go to the hospital at 6 a.m. New Year's Day. So I spent the night with my dog curled up beside me, scared of the fireworks, just starting building out a community. And I thought, if I get 100 people to join this in the year, that's a success. I had 200 people join in the first 48 hours. So I was like, okay, I think there's something here.
Interesting. How did you get 200 people in the first 48 hours? That's ridiculously impressive.
I just posted about it on LinkedIn, and I just told a few people about what I was doing, and then people just come and joined. And we started originally on LinkedIn as a group, and then if you're listening to this LinkedIn, your group settings and creating of groups is terrible. So don't sue me. That's the truth. So we moved it to Slack a little bit later. But yeah, it was just word of mouth, and then just asking a few people. There'll be 200 people come. It's insane.
Wow, love it. So I think really it was the epiphany moment. New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
With before the fireworks, walking Chucky. And you touched on it at the beginning when we did your introduction and about who you are, but just to go into, I guess, SDR leaders or the SDR leaders of EMEA, just if you won't mind going into a bit more detail about what is the business, what is the community, and who are the people that it serves?
Yeah, so we're quite uniquely placed, kind of who we work with. It's only SDR leaders. There are some great communities out there that serve the whole of the GTM, go-to-market function, but the SDR component of that plays a smaller part to the wider C-level VPs of sales that could be involved in those communities. So it's for SDR leaders only. And what was the rest of the question? Sorry.
The rest of the question was just about what it does and who it serves.
Okay. So kind of our mission, our vision is dictate what the SDR function is going to look like in 2030. So we do talk about practical pieces and kind of executional things, but we really talk more strategy and vision about where this function should go. And we're trying to elevate SDR leaders' thoughts rather than thinking about the day-to-day. Actually think about, well, what's it going to look like in 3, 6, 12, 18 months? So a lot of our conversations around that kind of strategic, visionary concepts of being a leader, trying to bring it more in line with chief revenue officers, chief marketing officers, so that they can then speak that language that those senior leaders also talk. So it elevates them and it elevates their business.
Cool. Got it. So it's essentially serving SDR leaders directly. Indirectly, then we'll serve obviously SDRs as well.
Yeah.
And just to talk about the growth of the community then. So 200 people signed up in the first 48 hours. How many people do you have signed up now?
Got like 13,000 followers globally. In our Slack channel, we have about 3,000 SDR leaders. 43% of them are director level or above. We've got 90 now of the world's of the global VPs of sales development in the community. We've got 30 city chapters all across North America and EMEA.
Very impressive. And I know you mentioned before this that quite humble. Well, I might want to play it down. Well, that's like in the space of 3 years, 3 years?
2.5 years, yeah.
2.5 years. I'm interested in, because I think there's lessons a lot of people can learn in and outside of sales. How have you built something from 0 to 248 hours to now, the thousands that you've got?
I'm sure this isn't healthy, but I can never settle. That's always been my problem. I have that mindset of, okay, if I get comfortable, then I'm going to start getting behind. And a lot of that comes down to education, where I had to repeat a year at school at A level because I it got diagnosed after school. That I've suffered quite badly from dyslexia, and so everything has been always a challenge for me. My my claim to fame is I wanted to become a physiotherapist when I was a kid, and so you have to do the biology A level to get in. And in the first exam we did at AS level, core principles, I got 2 marks out of 90 after revising and practicing. And my head of sixth form told me maybe being a plumber or a electrician is a better route for you. Which nothing wrong with those professions, but it wasn't really what was expected of people when we were growing up in the early 2000s. So there's always been that kind of chip on my shoulder, have to continue to push and push and push. So it's been a lot by that kind of in the background, but always needing to prove people wrong. But also, we've got a great group of people within the community that help with running our city chapters. Have a great co-founder, Dale Fawn, in the US. He's a fantastic guy who is helping just spreading this word, and we're all the same in terms of our mindset about always treat people the way it's set to be treated, treat people with respect, kindness, help first before asking, and people see that and really feel that. So that's what's led to the growth.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for sharing as well. It's mad how often there's like a chip on the shoulder, like you mentioned, with
Yeah.
successful people, particularly in the sales industry as well. So it doesn't surprise me it's gone on to achieve what it has done. We're going to talk a lot about the vision then. So what does the SDR role look like in 2030? But before we do that, then you will hear from SDR leaders all the time. We were joking before this that you and I get approached by SDRs and salespeople a lot as well. But what's good about the SDR industry at the minute? What's maybe not so good?
I think it's been really interesting this last 18 months where there's been a narrative going on the internet about how the SDR role is dead, and how SDR leaders now are fighting back and actually proving to their businesses the critical revenue generating importance that it has in the business. And there are so many cases of very strong leaders, be it managers, be it directors, be it VPs, that have really gone to bat for that function in their business and proven their worth and value, that you don't hear about on the internet because it's not clickbaity. It's against the narrative that's out there. And I think that's what's been really good to see, is that a lot more SDR leaders are really taking control, not being allowed to be pulled along by stuff on the internet that maybe their C levels see and see, we need to go and do that, or we need to go and do this because this person on the internet said that. They're actually backing up with data, with their own experience about this is where we should be going. That's been, I think, the really interesting thing to see over the last 18 months, that kind of fight back from leaders and showing that.
Good. Well, long may it continue. So that's what's good about the industry then. And yeah, I agree that the narrative of the SDR will being dead is not true. But what are maybe some of your bugbears with, I guess, the SDR role or the SDR industry? And this is probably unfair because it's not representative of everyone. There's a lot of great stuff out there. But what are maybe your frustrations that you see?
Go back to education. If you're in teaching, it's a vocation. And I really think that leadership is a vocation. When you become a manager and a people leader, you are never going to earn as much money as if you were going to be an AE. And sometimes there's going to be months where your SDR is going to earn more than you. And that is the best thing that can ever happen. It's happened to me a couple of times, and I've always been so proud of those people. But some people, some SDR leaders see it as a gateway into getting into an AE role at that company. It's been a couple of times where I've seen where people haven't been able to get an AE job at a company, but become an SDR manager and then trying to circumnavigate that to become into the AE role. And the reason I'm saying that is because they should never be allowed to be in that position, because you're managing the professional lives of 7-10 people who are looking to you for guidance, for coaching, for making them better. But are you really fully invested in that? Or are you just looking for quick wins for you to justify you being promoted into an AE role? That's one of my big bugbears.
Yeah, interesting take. Coming on to then, one thing I just want to touch on there actually is, before we go into the future of the SDR role, is again, you speak to hundreds, if not thousands, of SDR leaders. What do some of the best leaders then, who treat it as a vocation, like you mentioned, what do they do well?
They're like a Rosetta Stone of that. They can talk to an SDR about the way that they work in terms of their metrics and their key performing indicators, but then they can also talk to the chief revenue officer, the chief financial officer, in a language that they understand, because it's two different worlds. Finance officers are caring about return of investment, about lifetime value of headcounts. SDRs are concerned about hitting their meeting or their pipeline number and getting promoted. And I've seen leaders that have had conversations with C-levels speaking more like as if they're speaking to an SDR, and that C-suite is just switched off, and they're not seeing the value in which the role brings. But when the best SDR leaders can talk in a way where it's showing the real value that their business unit is doing and the revenue that it brings, and then they're the ones that get the increase in headcount, the increase in salaries that they want for their teams, the increase in technology spend. That's what you see from the best ones.
Interesting. Because when we ask that question a lot, the answer a lot of the time is focused on maybe how they manage and lead their team, which is obviously very, very important. But what you're talking about is actually the best leaders from an organizational perspective are the ones that can also influence, manage upwards, and deal with, like you said, CFOs and CROs as well.
Managing upwards it's cheat code, absolute cheat code. And people consider it like a dirty word. Managing up, they think it's you manipulating, or no, you're not. You are talking a language in which those people understand.
So coming to that then, let's imagine there's an SDR leader, hopefully many of them listening to this conversation. They're going, yeah, what David and Kyle have just said, actually, that really resonates. I'm maybe struggling to manage upwards. Maybe that's something I need to improve on. Where should they start?
Real simple way is asking those heads of departments, what do you really care about? That comes from this team. Because if you're just talking against each other, they might be asking for something that you are doing, but you're not talking in a language that they understand. So you need to ask them, what do you care about from my team? And then have a couple of key metrics that they care about, and then that's what you report back to them on a consistent basis. And you build from that. I think it's really important as well for leaders to sit with whoever's in charge in the finance department and really understand like the all-in cost of hiring somebody, because it isn't just the salary, it's pension, it's other benefits. You need to understand what that cost is, and then you need to understand like how much does it cost for a meeting to be generated. What is that cost? Because you're trying to show to finance that for every dollar that you take, you're generating $10 extra. So you need to be able to do that. So it's these kind of little building blocks. It's just a lot of just listening and asking questions and then building. Then that gets noticed as well, because many people don't do it.
Yeah. It's probably really great advice for any SDR leaders listening to this. And actually what I take from that is probably just using the skills they already have and probably demonstrate with their own team, just doing it internally.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
in really simple terms. The future then of the SDR role by 2030, not that far away in the grand scheme of things. What direction are we heading in?
Okay, this is a weird take, and
We love a weird take.
yeah, I love a weird take. Well, okay, well that's good then. So the SDR function is the revenue, and it's also the talent engine for the business. And what I believe for the SDR function to really truly survive is not just be a talent engine for the AE team. It should go back to being that kind of graduate training scheme that a lot of companies used to do. So what it will mean is that when you hire somebody to come into the business, for the first year or two, they're not hitting the phones. They're doing rotations in different departments, in marketing, in finance, customer success, sales, product marketing. And the idea is that you're trying to get this talent to really truly understand the outcomes of their actions that they make in the business. So that then when you get to that point where you're having that discussion about, okay, where do you see your role in the business? If they say, I want to move into that sales track, that when an SDR comes into the business, they actually understand the reasons why a prospect will want to talk to me. What's the impact that I would make if I speak to them? So that actually then that learning curve that a lot of SDRs have, that ramp time, it will be significantly reduced, and the quality of the pipeline that's getting generated will be significantly higher because they truly understand, okay, this is important. I can't just book a meeting with so and so at this company, book 20 meetings with them and then never close anything. No, I need to book really high quality meetings that are going to generate into revenue. So I see it as that moving back into that kind of graduate trading scheme. Now, there's a lot of cost involved because they're not going to be generating revenue for the first year, 18 months. But what will happen is that the lifetime value of that headcount, that talent that comes in, will be so much more significant because they've actually really grasped the whole business before they're actually really contributing to the bottom line. So the long-term impact will be far greater.
Interesting. So just so I've got this right then, you think the SDR role will still exist?
Yep.
We'll probably come into maybe what differences it will have in 3.5 years' time. But you feel that businesses are more likely to have a business scheme or a graduate scheme, with then people hopefully choosing to go into a sales or SDR role afterwards. And at that point, because they have a deep understanding of the business, the return on investment should be significantly higher.
Yeah, I should have just said that. That's a lot quicker and plainer.
I was just making sure I had
Yeah,
it.
it's right.
And so let's then focus, because I think some businesses still do that. It's probably nowhere near as common as it was back when I started 11, 12 years ago. But let's say now we're 18 months in, they've done the rotations, and hopefully there's I don't know why, but a lucky few that are saying, yes, I do want to do sales. What do you then think in 2030, 3.5 years, the actual SDR role will look like at that point? Like, what will be the differences to what it is now?
So AI is very good for the actual reducing of administrative tasks for your team. So in terms of account prioritization, account assignment, account enrichment, prospect insight and data, that kind of whole admin piece will be taken away. So you won't actually need as many SDRs because the models that have been built have got a level of redundancy in it. You need more headcount because that headcount is not as productive as they used to be 10, 12 years ago. So if you can reduce the amount of admin time they have to do, we did a poll in one of our London events. We had SDRs leaders putting their hands up, went for about a third of the room said that their SDRs are spending more than 3 hours a day on admin tasks. So if you can get 15 hours back a week, that's starting to build out to be another whole headcount. So there's going to be less SDRs because they're more efficient, more more productive. They really understand the value of the business. I think we'll also start to see a lot more AEs that don't want the pressure of the number, being an AE, come back into an SDR role, because it's going to become a lot more strategic. It's going to become a lot more business impactful, and you become a real true internal function for your field sales. So what it will mean is that it'll be a leaner SDR organization, paid more because they're actually the value to the business is exponentially more, but they'll be executing at a far higher level.
Interesting. So we've got fewer SDRs by 2030. The work they'll be doing will be more strategic, maybe, than it is now, and AI will replace the admin repetitive tasks they'll be doing. You talk on LinkedIn around, I think I've seen it in the playbooks that you've shared recently, revenue pods. Would you mind sharing a little bit more? Because I think it's kind of aligned to what you've just said there in terms of what your vision might look like for not just the SDR role, but potentially for sales orgs in general in a few years' times.
Yes, I mean, pods have been around for years. Pods are where you have marketing, sales, SDRs, customer success, all working as a team on a certain set of accounts. And it's something I actually started building out at Infoblox, that pod system, when I was running the global commercial pilot there. We were running it as a pod system. And this was before all the kind of automations piece that come in. And I think what will happen is that I'm starting to hear a lot more about teams moving to a pod structure and having that kind of setup. And I think it makes a lot more sense, because if you've got a team that has a particular cost associated to it, but then all have that target that they're trying to hit in terms of revenue, it becomes a lot more predictable as well in terms of growth, and about how you know that if you're at a certain pipeline number, so if you're hitting at the certain levels you should, that you can then get another pod and another pod and another pod. The numbers become a lot more clearer than just saying we just need more SDRs, we just need more A's, because if they're all working towards that revenue goal as that group, it's gonna create a lot more focus.
Yeah, and I think I agree with what you said, and because what exists a lot now is the handover structure. You know, my job's done, it's now your job. My job's done, it's now your job. Whereas in the pod structure, similar to high performing teams in general, they're all working to very much common goal. In coming back to the SDR role then, and kind of the future, so we feel it'll be more strategic, maybe more collaborative in the way that it's working cross department, less time on admin. The SDR role, not for all businesses, but a lot of companies and SDRs now, it's still quite email heavy. There's still a hell of a lot of calls being made, which is good actually, but not necessarily high quality calls. What do you think the changes might be in terms of the actual outreach that SDRs will be doing in 2030 versus what we're seeing now?
Well, I think the real good thing about AI coming in and kind of AI SDR concept is that it's proven that humans want to talk to humans. You can't build trust and rapport over text. Some people are very good creative writers. My brother is a very good writer and written books, very, very good with his words. Most people aren't. And you can't get across your humor, your point of view in characters sometimes. It's got to be like this. It's got to be either face to face, or it's got to be over the phone. You've got to be able to show your expression, like if you're doing video messaging, show a sense of humor, because you only have a matter of seconds to build rapport with somebody. And those couple of seconds really count. And if those couple of seconds have been wasted on an email that people are getting hundreds of a day, and they're just like, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. You might have a really good email, but they're just in this kind of mindset of all these emails are terrible, I don't want to read any of them. So it's really that the I see also on the internet, it's always really funny that saying, "Oh, cold calling is back." It's never been away for the best companies in the world. They've never shied away from it because they know the value it brings. So I think it'll be that more of that real human to human interaction, that calling, video, messaging, voice notes, those kind of things that really show you as a human and build rapport that way.
Yeah. But I completely agree for what it's worth as well. I think a lot of the technology out there is so incredible and it will only get better. But fundamentally, it's irrelevant how good it is if people don't want to buy from it or
Yeah.
engage with it. It can be the best in the world. This is probably a good time then. We were talking just before this when we were preparing, and you actually had a few approaches and a little bit of outreach that came into you, which I think was email or LinkedIn. So we said on the podcast, we're just going to talk through them and actually share the examples. If you don't mind, David, just going through a couple of the examples of outreach that you had.
Yeah, sure. So I will obviously not mention any names.
Of course not.
No. But I think some of these really sum up that kind of text piece where there's no relevancy, there's no kind of idea or concept about what we do. So here's one that I got. David, about your digital products, digital spelled with 2 I's. Even I know that's not spelled correctly. David was looking over at programs on WHOP, WHOP, and came across your brand. Now, I don't know if WHOP is real. Maybe I'm being naive here, but I don't think I've ever heard of that. Are you running a sales team to close enrollments, or is it mostly inbound right now? Okay, I'm not a school. I don't know why I have enrollments. Asking because we've helped Client Ascension and other info sellers generate over 6 million in cash collected every month by recovering the pipeline revenue their closers were leaving on the table. Worth a chat? Okay, there's a lot of words there. I have no idea about any of it, what any of this means. So that will not be replied to.
And it's I wonder if I've heard this mentioned. I don't know people that have done it, but a lot of people using AI softwares that are intentionally misspelling things to make it feel like it's a human doing it, but clearly in that example it's not worked. So
I mean, it might be, maybe the AI prompt has been make no sense whatsoever whilst I'm sending this message. Could be
so
that.
there it's pretty clear there AI slop is what I'm hearing
Yeah.
quite a lot at the minute. There's a lot of talk about that. They are ways not to capture your attention because they're not relevant, they're generic, there's no personalization. And in your opinion, email or written format's probably not great anyway. I know you prefer the human-to-human connection. So how could those people capture your attention instead of what they've done?
Call me. Yeah, now I will try my hardest to pick up phone calls that I get. I will not pick up a phone call if it comes from a US number and it's at 11 a.m. Amsterdam time because I know it's not from the US. But like, just call me, and if I'm not busy, I'll pick up and I'll listen. Because I know the hard work that everyone has to to pick up the courage to call someone. So just give us a call. My number's on LinkedIn. Call me on LinkedIn. You'll see my number.
Yeah, hopefully we get so many listeners that you're gonna get flooded with cold
There you
calls.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, most of the time that is true as well. People's numbers are readily available, but we just don't get called that often. So pick up the phone, and I know you've talked about voice notes and videos
Yeah.
a bit as well. What are your thoughts, not even necessarily on them now to capture people's attention, but the role that they might play in a few years' time in 2030?
Yeah, it's a pattern breaker. So if you think that you're calling somebody, let's say, head of data at a company, now they're going to be getting hundreds of emails a day for work, internal, external. They're going to be getting cold calls as well, randomly. But then they might go on their LinkedIn, they might suddenly see this bar, this voice note bar, go, what's that? And then it's different, it's new. I'm going to press it, see what it says. Or I see that there's a video somebody's face on on LinkedIn message or send me a video. It's oh, what's this? And it's trying to change the pattern of just having emails just being sent, trying to call, all very strong channels, phone call more so, but just having that difference. And the amount of times I send voice notes because I might be walking my dog and whatever, and want to reach out to somebody who said, oh, I never knew you could do that on LinkedIn. Oh, this is really cool. I'm going to tell my team to do this. It's just different. And I've been talking about video and voice notes for years at the different companies I've been at. And there are some people that are really all in on it and they get really, really strong meetings. And others that will do one or two and say, oh, I've not got meetings, so I'm not going to do it anymore. You've got to do 20, 50. That's when you start to see the compounding nature of that.
Yeah. I guess it's the same as cold calling, isn't it? If you
Yeah.
just do 10 or 20, you're probably not going to get much success. So, cool. I agree for what it's worth as well. When you see it, it's a little bit intriguing. It makes you want to press play. Videos seem to be a lot more rare than they probably were, though, back in the 2020, 2021.
Yeah, I think big thing was that because it was on the email,
Yeah.
the video, and then people were like, this is really weird. People's phishing cybersecurity training is now getting better, so people are not going to click on this random link, but you can do a selfie video on your LinkedIn messages if you're connected with them. Then I've got an external app that I use so I can do those videos and voice notes on my desktop computer as well. So there are ways of circumnavigating it now.
Cool. What's the app called for anyone that might be listening and want that themselves?
Quibbly.
Yeah,
and you asked me to now spell it, and maybe we'll just put that link in the post afterwards.
We'll put that link in the
Yeah.
post. Yeah, Quibbly. Yeah.
Quibbly.
We'll put it in the
Yeah.
post, definitely, because that could be spelled a variety of different ways.
Exactly.
Matt, just a few other things really to touch on before we conclude. So we talked a little bit about AI, like AI slop automation. Just to go into it a bit more detail, because it's like the hot topic at the minute. The best SDR leaders in your community that you speak with, obviously admin research, but like more specifically, maybe a bit more granularly, what are they using AI for in their teams and in their businesses?
Yeah. So one of the big things that we started to see is that leaders now are getting back time to actually coach their people, because they're not having to do manual, as a leader, not having to do manual reporting or manual reviewing call by call people's phone calls they make. They're actually able to take a bunch of recordings that have been made and create prompts that can draw out certain keywords that may be missing, looking at objections that weren't or were handled. And so that they're able to have a bit more of a data-driven approach in terms of cold call coaching, and be able to say, hey, I've reviewed your calls. Whenever you said this and this, you've had a really higher hit rate of it converting into a meeting. Or when somebody has said this to you, you've never been quite strong on it. So we're going to do some additional coaching on that. That's what I'm starting to see the best leaders do, is take the time back that they've got to actually help make their teams better. I think that's been a really powerful thing to see.
Yeah. Great. And you did a post the other day around who SDRs should report into.
Yeah.
Sales or marketing.
Yeah.
The results of the poll, I think 64% said it should be sales.
Yeah.
A lot of comments said it should be marketing.
Yeah.
What was your opinion? What's your take?
Yeah, so I've worked at companies that SDRs have reported into sales and also reported into marketing. My opinion is that they should report into marketing, and this is why. There is a big heavy caveat to it. I was at Snowflake leading their SDR org in Europe, and we had a very strong account-based marketing program where we had a set of list of target accounts that were divided into 3 groups, where there was specific activations done on account-based marketing, like personal one-to-one marketing to the top accounts, and then it goes lower and lower. And so you're creating that kind of demand that way. And what you don't want is the sales organization to be responsible for that, because sales can sometimes be a bit of a, we need instant gratification. Whereas to really nurture people to get to the point to say, yes, I want to talk to you, it takes longer now than ever before. It's still about 5% of the market. So 5% of the prospects that you're trying to engage with are actively looking in the market. So it's about trying to build that interest and intrigue about what you do. So marketing should have the SDR organization report under them, because then you can start to see the effectiveness of those programs, because those target accounts are not just been done by a marketing person. They would have been approved by sales. That have been approved by RevOps as being the right kind of company that's going to be buying from us. So they've already got that buy-in. And then the other piece, that there'll be that kind of account-based marketing done, but then the SDRs can be working with the sales org, like in this pod motion, about, okay, so we've been able to engage with these people. Okay, so now we need to do more outbound into those people to reference what we've been sending them. But then also, if we've been booking meetings with some of those people, the sales, the AEPA team should be saying, okay, we spoke to those people, now we need to speak to these other people in the other different business units, referencing that we've already spoken to those people. So then it becomes this more bigger, more joined up thinking. And then we haven't even got into working with partners, working with channel, and about that referencing those conversations and seeing if there's other avenues that you can get into. So having it led by marketing, it allows a more longer term outlook of that account penetration versus they're not interested, let's move on to someone else. Well, it takes up to 14 to 16 people in a deal now for that to close. So if you just haven't, it might take time for you to get engaged the right person.
Interesting. That's definitely a very decisive topic as well, or divisive topic. So I'll be sharing that one afterwards, because I think that's definitely going against the grain, probably from what a lot of people say, but definitely interesting rationale behind it. Right, final couple of bits then. Really, we normally at this point when we conclude is we kind of ask, like, what are you doing to change the perception of sales? But I'm going to actually ask that question and then ask you something else relevant to the people that you spoke to at school yesterday, when you were probably trying to inspire them for the rest of their life. But what are you doing, or what do you think needs to be done to change the perception of sales and make it a career of choice?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting. I spoke to the head of sixth form beforehand. Before I spoke to, it was the lower sixth, so it was the 16, 17-year-olds. And he said that a lot of the people in that room are all saying they just want to make money. Okay, great. And the kind of traditional avenues then, I was speaking at a private school. And so the traditional avenues are going to be law, medicine, maybe do something in business because something in the family business that they've done. But what I was trying to explain to them last night was, I didn't know what I was going to do with my career until I was 26. I did so many different things. Nothing ever really stuck about really what I wanted to do. But what I learned so much from all those experiences, and it made me the person I am today. So don't just be like, think, oh, because I haven't got into this school to do medicine, that means that my whole life is over. No, there might be another door wide open to the side of you that you're not looking at because you're just so solely tunnel visioned on that one door. Look around a bit more. And you might hate that door that's opened, but then you will have learned something from it. There will be something that you'll have a friend that you've met, a mentor that you've met, and an experience that you can take on when you do something else. So it was more about that. And I think sales is, again, it's got such a dirty word associated to it, especially in England. Not so much in the US. In the US, there's a lot more universities that have like sales departments now. But in the UK, I think it's still seen as very kind of like beneath people. But there's not many jobs that you can get coming out of university where you're potentially earning more than what your parents are earning, which is a lot of the cases when it comes to you're going to earn more than the average salary of somebody doing this role. And the opportunities that it gives you, the travel, the meeting people, it was an absolute life changer for me. And I think if I'd known about this when I was younger, I'd have gone, okay, this is maybe something I would have done. But so he was just trying to show them that there is a different path maybe they hadn't thought of.
Got it. That's a great advert for a career in sales. And final thing, David, what's coming up for SDR leaders?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a conference in London in October. We're going to be having 250 of the best sales development leaders from Europe, Middle East, and Africa all come in for a 2-day event. We're going to be releasing our next research paper around how to build out a revenue model for building out your SDR org in the next few weeks. And then we've got a couple of other research documents coming out to help give SDR leaders the firepower they need to get decisions made within their business. So, and then I think we've got about 25 in-person events before the end of the year coming up. So a bit more traveling as well.
Wow. Enjoy. Very exciting times. If you're an SDR leader, check out SDR Leaders of EMEA, US or APAC, wherever you are based. David, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Cheers.
Thanks ever so much.